Let's now take you live to SABC News reporter Tebogo Phakedi, who is at the IEC Center out in the Northwest. So Tebogo, about 0.06% of votes we are understanding from the IEC from here at the Results Center finished so far. What is the latest situation on your side?
Good day, of course, to you and the viewers. We will be talking to the IEC here in the province in a short while, just to give us a picture as far as the counting of the results is concerned. We understand that there are some of the voting districts that have already concluded with counting. It's just a matter of them auditing these results. But before we get into that, I just want us to concentrate on the picture of the Northwest as far as, you know, the competing for seats in the legislature is concerned. But before we do that, throughout the day we were told by the IEC that all the voting stations in the morning of the Wednesday yesterday did open on time, and there were only some challenges in the Dr. Ruth Sekgomuzi where residents were protesting. And of course in the Rustenburg, the IEC tent was stolen there, as well as other residents in the other areas, Ward 44 to be specific, that were in actual fact alleged to be boycotting these elections, alleging that they have not been receiving services, therefore cannot participate in the 7th national and provincial elections. I just want us to concentrate on this specific screen so that we can do the comparison as far as the previous electoral years are concerned. We know for now that IEC has not updated on their digital dashboard, but let us concentrate here in 2019, for an example, in the Northwest. We'll just look at the pictures. So this is in 2019 where we saw the votes coming in, and of course the voter turnout at the time was 70%. But if I may just take you to the parties that were represented in the legislature, it was the ANC at 72%, COPE at 8%, and of course the DA at 8%. This was the top three, and as you can see, the top four was, of course, UCDP. The concern as well that has been being registered for the past years is the spoiled ballots. If we can just go to 2014 national elections, voter turnout being 66%. With, of course, the previous years, we can confirm voter apathy, given that we already have the stats of the voter turnout. Then we saw the EFF coming into play, with the ANC leading with 67% in the legislature, EFF with 13%, and the DA, of course, with 12%. If we may just look at this graph, the spoiled votes there being 1.6%. I just want also to talk to the IEC about this spoiled votes. This will translate to more than 10 ballots being spoiled. Let us just go to 2019. The picture still looking the same, with the ANC leading in the legislature, followed by the EFF. It's been interesting that for the past few electoral years, we've only been seeing 4 parties in the legislature, being the ANC, the EFF, the DA, and of course the Freedom Front Plus. The question is, will we be seeing other new parties coming into play? You've got the likes of, Forum for Service Delivery, that has relatively been doing well in local government elections for the past 8 years, being represented in some of the municipalities. Will they this time be able to get into the legislature? I can tell you that in the Northwest, the seats in the legislature have increased to 38. You would know that this is determined by the population of the province, with the recent census stating that in the Northwest we've got a population of 3.8 million, translating the seats to 38, meaning we will be able to see if there are new parties coming in or the existing parties are increasing in terms of their numbers. But there was another report earlier on that in Potchefstroom there were party agents that were allegedly, in conflict, looking at allegations of the ballots that were open and so forth. But I just want to talk to the IEC about the update as far as voting is concerned, counting of results is concerned. Here, as we look at the current national and provincial elections. We are still waiting for the IEC to update the dashboard to just see about 23,293 voting districts as far as the tally there. How are the numbers? Yes, we've received one from the Eastern Cape, as you earlier reported, just one voting district from more than 23. It would be interesting to look at the numbers, but I'm just going to invite in and sit down with Dr. Tiba, who is the provincial head of the IEC here in the province. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Tiba. If you may just update us as far as the stations. Yes, we got an earlier update that they opened on time. Thus far, are there stations that voting districts that have already done their counting? If you may just hold the mic for us, Dr. Tiba.
12 midnight, there were at least 35 voting districts that had completed counting in the province. We do not want to rush the conclusion of the results, because this is a very important process that we're going through. But we know for certain that in the Bojanala district at 12 midnight, there were 11 stations that had concluded the results, the counting, and now we are just waiting for the auditing of the results so that they can be processed further. And in Ngakamudiri Mulema, there were 13 stations that had concluded, completed counting, that is. And in Dr. RSM, there were 6 stations. In Dr. KK, there were 5 stations. Now, as I said, this is a very delicate process that needs serious concentration so that we minimize the mistakes, especially in the tallying of the results. We're going to be waiting for quite some time, probably about 4 or 5 hours, for the results to trickle in, because they have to go, like I say, they have to go through the station process of reconciliation and counting, and in some cases recounting, and then they get through to the province where we refine the results with auditing at that level, and then they are escalated to the national office. So it'll be quite some time before we get results from the province. But in the overall, we're happy with the manner in which the staff members, especially at voting stations, worked. You have already pointed to the challenges that we had, one of which was the tent that was stolen in Rustenburg, which really is a pity. And also this morning, yesterday that is, because it's now a new day, early Wednesday morning, one of our area managers was involved in a car accident going to the last of his stations, and that delayed the opening of their stations. But in the overall, all our 1,737 stations bar this one opening on time. Now, the process might have looked slow. However, we had to satisfy ourselves that we were doing what we were supposed to do. From the technical point of view, from the process, from interacting with the voters, we had to be sure that what we were doing was what South Africa expected us to do. So there was no deliberate rush over the process. It might have appeared to some as tardiness, but actually we were not slow. What we were doing was we were dealing with the situation on the ground with the demands at the time. And we do understand the anxiety for people to go through stations and vote, especially after sunset. But we had to do the correct thing.
The entrance, of course, to the voting districts closed at 9 p.m. yesterday. If I may just ask at this point, of course, there would be those that are on the queues, having been there since 9 o'clock, for example. Are there stations that are still voting at this point in the province?
No, fortunately not. When we closed stations at 9 o'clock, there were queues that were I think the highest number was 200. and we whittled down that number to such an extent that by 11 o'clock, almost all our stations were done voting, except, of course, for the stations with a high voter turnout. And as I said, we don't want to rush. This is a very important step towards promoting, maintaining and sustaining our democracy. So we wouldn't want to rush over the process as important as this one. We've been waiting 18 months for this process. So we have to do the right thing. At the moment, almost 1,600 of our stations are probably still counting. We're not in a hurry at all. We were made for this job and we're going to do it properly. We shall wait for those results to come, because when they come, we'll be satisfied that they were tallied accurately.
We've received reports that in the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Potchefstroom to be precise, there were party agents that were alleging that there were some discrepancies as far as the ballot boxes are concerned, alleging that they were open while still at the voting districts. Do we know what happened there?
We did not receive any official, formal complaint about that. But what could have happened was that when the special vote ballot boxes were taken to the stations, one or two presiding officers might have opened the box so that the new ballot papers could be put inside those boxes. However, there isn't one single station in the province that did not have party agents, and they are now called agents. Now the main role of the agents is not only to look after the interest of the candidates, but also to assist us in making sure that our process is as flawless as is humanly possible. So once that has happened, or if perhaps there's a box where the seal was fragile enough to break, then the parties will agree that this is what we're going to do about this particular box. Reconciliation assists us in determining whether or not there were any perceived or real mischievous action. Because if the ballot papers do not tally, if there's no balance between what we issued, what was used, what was cancelled, and what was spoiled, then we have a problem. But if all of that is balances out, then we know that what could have happened was a human error, or an error that was committed with good intentions. In other words, it's an error, yes, but whoever committed the error actually add to the positive.
Yeah, I want us to look at the interesting part of the when we do the comparison of the previous electoral years. When we look at the spoiled ballots for 2019, of course, they even surpassed 15,000. Normally, when you find this spoiled, ballots, what is it that you normally find? Is it because, the voter was not aware that they need to tick somewhere, or some would say, is there an alleged protest on the ballots? What is it that you normally find for spoiled ballots, for an example, to surpass 10,000? I can imagine if a spoiled ballot was a political party, they'll probably be number 5 in the legislature. So what is it that you normally find for them to be that much?
You know what? From us, we focusing on the technical aspect of the process. So what we do is to identify the ballots that are considered spoiled, so that they are not counted. We have not undertaken a study, a scientific study, that says this particular ballot paper for this particular reason is a sign of protest. We cannot say that with certainty, so we do not want to speculate. We do not want to be presumptuous and assume that because this ballot paper looks like this, then it means either the person was differently literate, or the person deliberately spoiled that paper. We haven't done that study yet. We do not really appreciate spoiled ballot papers, because we try as much as possible to conduct balloting education so that voters know that the mark must be within that block that is provided, so that the voter's intention can be read well and interpreted accurately. However, we do have instances where an error might look deliberate. For instance, instead of making a cross, the person writes a sentence. This is a beautiful person, or something to that effect. Or the person deliberately crosses each and every block, rendering that ballot paper spoiled. But if it were according to our wish, we wouldn't have as many as we sometimes experience number of spoiled ballot papers.
That is Dr. Dumelontle Tiba, that is the head of the IEC in the Northwest Province. As she's giving us the update from the IEC, she is indicating that no one is on the queue at this point voting. All of them have actually cast their votes. The voting districts at this point are concentrating on counting the votes, which would then be audited before they are sent to national. The stands currently here in the Northwest Province. It will be quite interesting as the day goes to see, as IEC updates its dashboard, the colors on the canvas, the map, just to see what are the results saying. For now, back to you in studio.
That is SABC News reporter out in the Northwest at the IEC Centre, Tebogo Phakedi. There she was, joined by representative from the IEC. Live results coming in now, 0.09% of those completed voting districts, and 20 of 23,293, of course, of some of those have been completed.